Hey, what is up, YouTube? My name is Mr. Kyle Cohen. I'm a 4th grade teacher in Cleveland, Ohio, and today I will be sharing 5 of my top tips for nailing your next interview. Let's get into it. I previously uploaded a video here on my YouTube channel talking about how to get hired in 2021. That was a very general overview into all things applications, hiring cycles, and how to best position yourself in your next application process. Today's video, however, will be specifically focused on interviews, thinking you have gone ahead, you have applied, they have reached out, they are extending a first, second, third round interview, and how you can best set yourself apart throughout the interview process. I obviously am a teacher, and all of my previous experiences with interviews have focused on teaching, except if you talk about my valet experience when I was in high school or my jobs at camp. But in my professional life, my work has been focused in education and in teaching. And although my tips do apply to the field of education, these 5 things that I will be talking about today are also general enough that they can apply to whatever interview you are going on. My first tip for any upcoming interview is to prepare something to bring with you. In my experience, when I was going on teaching interviews, I had a portfolio that I had created and made that is specific to me and who I am as a teacher. I believe a portfolio is such an amazing physical or digital representation of who you are and what you will bring to this job. For me, my portfolio provided images, text, graphics that shared with the interview panel who I am, what my work has looked like previously, and how I'm going to show up at their school. I believe that this additional visual that you will provide the interview panel will coincide so well with everything that you are talking about in the actual interview. You also have the ability to then point to specific things in your portfolio when certain questions might be asked. Turning to a page in your portfolio that focuses on those specific things, showing them actually what this has looked like in your experiences in the past, I think just adds to your credibility and their ability to fully wrap their mind around who you would look like and who you would be if they hired you on to their team. Obviously, a lot of our interviews right now are taking place virtually, whether that is on Zoom, Google Meet, or over the phone, but I believe that you could still send your portfolio before or after your interview to whoever was on the interview panel. If it's after the interview, saying something like, "It was such a pleasure having the chance to interview with you today. I am attaching my virtual portfolio for you to take a look at. I really look forward to hearing from you soon," or something like that. And if your interview is in person, you can actually print out physical copies of your portfolio to hand to everyone on the interview panel. I always bring extra copies with me to make sure that everyone on the panel can have a chance to check out the awesome work that you have prepared. My next tip for nailing your next interview is to come prepared with answers to questions, but most specifically come prepared with your answers to tell us about yourself and what questions do you have for us. Regardless of whatever interview you are about to go on, I can almost guarantee that both of those questions are going to be asked, and you want to walk in feeling prepared with your answers, like you are not forming an answer on the spot, and you want it to sound fully authentic. The last thing you want is for your answers to sound robotic or not natural, so come prepared with both of your answers to those questions. Whenever I am asked in an interview to tell us about yourself, tell me about yourself, I always begin with this. My name is Kyle Cohen, and I am an educator. My journey to the world of education began 10 years ago when I was hired on staff at camp. Camp transformed my life. It dramatically impacted the work I want to be doing, and camp pushed me to my work at Ohio State, where I studied psychology and leadership studies. I was really focused on getting really involved in work in leadership and supporting young people through social justice work, and that led me to the organization Teach for America, where I worked for 2 years in a low-income school in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. My work at Teach for America led me, right, you want to be telling this narrative, you want to be telling a story, story. You want to be authentically portraying who you are as a person, and the best thing you can do to set yourself apart with the answer to that question is to just practice. It's awkward. Interviews can be awkward, but whatever practice you can do, whatever answers you can think of beforehand will just set you apart. Second, what questions do you have for us? Most likely your interview will end with that question. And I believe that an inappropriate answer is, no, I think we're good. Thank you so much. Have some questions prepared. Write them down in a journal, write them down in a notebook, bring that notebook with you to the interview, and ask some questions that are specific to the school or the business or whatever it is you are applying to. A question that I always have in my back pocket for when I am asked what questions do you have for us is, what goals do you all have in the coming months or in the coming school year? What are you all specifically focused on in this next quarter, in this next month? Another amazing question that I think you could ask is, now that this interview is over and I had the chance to share about me, are there any hesitations from you all or things in your mind that I can clarify? Now that answer and that question that you ask back to them, it is a riskier question in the sense of you might hear something that you don't maybe want to hear, but at the same time, if they have concerns about what you bring to the table and you are able to address those concerns, I think that's a really incredible way to walk out of that interview, at least feeling like you did everything you can to secure the role in the best of your ability. My third tip for you is to read the room. Now, this tip is really challenging for a virtual interview, but it still is possible. When you are going on an interview and you specifically are up in front of a panel, you really want to be reading the room. If you are going on and talking and they are disinterested, or if they stop writing notes or typing notes, you're probably talking too much. But if you are talking and they're consistently writing and they're taking notes and you feel like they're not looking up, you probably need to slow down, right? You want to read the room. You want to make sure that you are answering questions to the appropriate length, and you want to stop and pivot and adjust if you feel like things are not going well. If you are answering the first or second question and you feel like they are looking at you and they're not taking notes, or they're disinterested, or they're over interested and they're writing too much, you want to read the room, make some adjustments, and think to yourself, okay, what can I do to slow down, to act more excited, more enthusiastic, to maybe tell more stories, right? You really want to read that room and get the panel on your side. My next tip for you is to make sure you hit all of your talking points throughout the interview. The panel will obviously be coming prepared with questions to ask you, and my hope is that you are preparing answers to those questions before you walk into the actual interview. But with that being said, if you have a list of things that you really want to talk about, that set you apart, that make you who you are, and you feel like those things need to get across, you need to get those things across in the interview, you have to find a way to strategically answer those points. So if you are asked a certain question later on in the interview and you feel like you have not had the chance to get across everything you want to get across, you have to find a way to kind of place these little pieces of information throughout the interview. If you feel like you are incredible at managing a classroom, or if your understanding of grade level curriculum is out of this world, but you aren't necessarily being asked those questions, you want to place this information throughout. So let's say that you are being asked, what does your classroom look like? If I'm your administrator and I walk into your classroom, what can I expect to see in your classroom? That's a common interview question. It's a question I love to answer. You can take this in a million different directions. If you want to focus on classroom management, get into it. If you want to focus on your instructional leadership in the classroom with curriculum, get into it. If you want to focus on your relationships with parents, what communication looks like, you can take that question in a million different directions. So strategically think about how the interview is going as the interview is happening. If you've already answered questions about classroom management, do not go into that question talking about classroom management even more. You want to be talking about all of the different parts of you that make you an incredible person for this job. So think about what you have already answered and start to place pieces of information that you still want to talk about that you maybe haven't had the chance to get to quite yet. And my final fifth tip for nailing your next interview is to have fun. I think that the best way to get through an interview is to just enjoy it. Regardless if you get the job or not, it's going to be a learning experience. And you walk in there, you're confident, you have fun, you tell good stories, you talk about how awesome you are. You made it to the interview stage. So at some point in time, something went right because they're extending an interview to you. And regardless, again, if they hire you or not, make the most out of that interview and enjoy yourself. Worst case scenario, you meet the interview panel and they don't offer you the job, right? But there are so many other incredible places that would be so lucky to have you, so don't be hard on yourself. Don't take every single moment of the interview too seriously. Laugh, have fun, be yourself, be authentic. That's who they want to see, and that's who you want to be. You don't want to work somewhere where you feel like you can't be yourself. And for me, joy and enthusiasm and laughter and having fun are characteristics of who I am as a teacher, as a leader, as a person. And if I can't be that way in an interview, then it's probably not the place that will be best suited for me. What tips do you have for interview successes or things to not do in interviews? Go ahead, leave those tips down below in the comments. I'm really excited to read what has worked and not worked for all of you in the past. And at the end of the day, best of luck to you on your next interview. If there's anything that I can be doing to further support you, feel free to, again, comment down below, shoot me a message over on Instagram. Excited to continue the conversation with you all. If you have not already done so, make sure you hit that red subscription button down below so that you do not miss out on any future videos. And as always, I so appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.